Somerset is a rural county in the southwest of England, covering 4,171 square kilometres. It is bounded on the northwest by the Bristol Channel, on the north by Bristol and Gloucestershire, on the northeast by Wiltshire, on the southeast by Dorset, and on the southwest and west by Devon. It has broad central plains with several ranges of low hills. The landscape divides into four main geological sections, from the Silurian through the Devonian and Carboniferous to the Permian, which influence the landscape, together with water-related features. The low-lying areas of the North Somerset Levels and Somerset Levels have been subject to thousands of years of flooding and man's attempts to control the flow of water. In the north of the county, the limestone of the Quantic Hills dominates the landscape, while in the south the Blackdown and Quantic Hills rise out of the levels. The highest areas are on Exmoor. The wide variety of landscapes has led to several areas being designated as sites of special scientific interest for geological reasons, and support a range of flora and fauna, as can be seen from the list of sites of special scientific interest in Somerset rock ages. The oldest rocks are of Silurian age, the most southerly known outcrop of rocks of this age in Britain. They make up a sequence of lavas, tuffs, shales and mudstones in a narrow outcrop to the northeast of Shepton Mallet, in the eastern Quantic Hills. Rocks from the Devonian are found across much of Exmoor, the Quantox, and in the cores of the folded masses of the Quantic Hills. Carboniferous period rocks are represented by the Carboniferous limestone that forms the Quantic Hills, rising abruptly out of the flat landscape of the Somerset Levels and moors. The limestones are very fossiliferous, and contain evidence of the abundant marine life that existed at the time of the creation, including fossil crinoids, corals and brachiopods. At the end of the Permian and Triassic periods, the Wereon orogeny resulted in the formation of several mountainous areas, including Dartmoor in the south, Exmoor and the Quantox, and Amendops. In the Taunton area, Permian red sandstones and Breccia outcrop. Although rocks of Triassic age underlie much of Somerset and form the solid geology of the Somerset moors and levels, there are no glacial deposits. The Triassic rocks consist of red marls, sandstones, breccias and conglomerates which spread over the older rocks. The dolomitic conglomerate is an old shingle beach of Kuiper Marl age. The Rhyolitic beds are full of fossils due to invasion of the Jurassic Sea. The lias consists of clays and limestones, the latter being quarried and are famous for the fossils. Blue lime was burnt locally to provide a source of lime for making lime mortar. It is still used as a decorative building stone. Blue lias is believed to have been quarried on the Paulden Hills as early as the 15th century and was quarried in Puriton from the early 19th century, until 1973, when the local cement works closed. Above the lias is the low Oolite series, which are chiefly clays and oolitic limestone. The famous Bath stone is obtained from the Great Oolite bed. Oxford clay is the chief member of the Middle Oolite series, and above this are the Upper Cretaceous rocks with gold, upper green sand and chalk. Alluvial flats and peat bogs occupy much of the centre of Somerset. Coastline. In prehistoric times, the coastline of Somerset was very different from the present one, the sea level at the last glacial maximum being several hundred feet lower than today, so that the Bristol Channel was almost non-existent. The Bristol Channel has one of the largest tidal ranges in the world, up to 12 meters at Burnham-on-Sea, for example, behind only the Bay of Fundy and Ungava Bay in Canada. Normal high tide may be enhanced by between 3 meters and 4 meters during storm surges. This feature has meant that large areas of the county have been liable to flooding by the sea. Thus the present coastline is partly due to a belt of marine clay at the coast and partly due to sea walls built to reclaim areas previously flooded at high tide. The coastline contains exposures of Devonian sediments and tectonics west of Minehead, adjoining the classic exposures of Mesozoic sediment sand. Structural features which extend eastward to the Parrot estuary, forming cliffs along the coastline near Clevedon and near Minehead, with low sand hills near Burnham-on-Sea. There are sandy beaches mainly at Burnham-on-Sea, Breen and Weston-super-Mare. There are also storm ridges, salt marsh and sand dunes. Main river valleys. The main valleys between the hills are filled with alluvial deposits from the hills.The. The county has many small rivers, most of which flow into the Bristol Channel. Many of the latter rivers now have clists on them to control the sea, but formerly they were tidal for some way inland. The main exception to this is the River Parrot, which still has a tidal bore. However, the Chew and the Froom flow into the Avon, which forms most of the northern county boundary with Gloucestershire. The Cale flows into Dorset through the Blackmore Vale, while the Axe flows into Devon. The Axe, the Culm and the Otter rise in Somerset but flow into Dorset. The courses of the rivers Parrot, Somerset, Axe, Brew and Carey run across the Somerset levels and have generally been changed to improve the flow. The River Axe rises from Wookey Hole Caves, due to water draining into the ground at Swallowholes on top of the Mendips. The river passes through Panborough Moor, Wedmore Moor, Oxmoor, Stoke Moor and Mark Moor and reaches the sea at Uphill on Bridgewater Bay. The River Brew rises at Brim, close to the county border with Wiltshire. It flows through Bruton and is joined by the rivers Pitt and Alum. The river then flows past East and West Lidford to Boltonsborough and then turns north to Street across Butts Moor, South Moor and Kennard Moor. Originally it then joined the Axe, but now it flows west across West Haymoor, Teelham and Tatham Moors, Chiltern Moor, Mark Moor and Huntspool Moor. It is joined by the North Drain and the Hartlake River. In Huntspool Moor, the Brew is linked to the man-made Huntspool River by the artificial Cripps River. The Brew reaches the sea near Burnham-on-Sea. The River Carey originates in Castle Carey in the east of Somerset. It flows southwest through Carey Moor to Carey Fitzpaine. The river then turns northwest to the north of Somerton. It then used to turn south to join the Parrot, but now passes through Somerton Moor and crosses King's Sedgemoor in an artificial channel. The King's Sedgemoor drain, joining the Parrot at Dumble north of Bridgewater. The River Parrot originates at Sheddington, Dorset, just over the border with Somerset. It enters Somerset at Hazelbury Plucknett, where it is joined by the Broad River. It passes to the east of South Pedderton and flows north through Thorney Moor and Muchelney Level, and it is then joined by the Island rivers. The Parrot flows through Langport and then through Middlemore, Alham or to Boroughbridge, where it is joined by the River Tone. It then passes through Erlake Moor, Hartlake Moor, Western Level and South Moor. It continues north through Bridgewater, Horsey Level, past Pauletham and Paulet Level to the coast near Burnham-on-Sea. The River Tone originates at Beverton Pond on the Brendan Hills in the west of Somerset. It flows south into Clatworthy Reservoir and then to Greenham, where it changes course to go northeast to Taunton. It continues east through Westmore, Gurry and Hay Moors and Stanmore to Boroughbridge, where it meets the Parrot. The River Exe rises at Exehead on Exmoor and flows southeast to Exton, where it is joined by the River Quorm. It then flows south to Exbridge, where it meets the Barle and passes into Devon. Levels and moors. The North Somerset levels are to the east of Weston-super-Mare, while the Axe Valley is separated by the Isle of Wedmore from the Brew Valley. The latter is separated by the Polden Hills from the main wetland of the Parrett-Tonke valleys. The Poldens are a low narrow ridge of blue gneiss with alternating bands of limestone and clay. Because of the nature of the levels and moors, the Poldens have a significant visual impact. The Somerset levels run from the coast up to 30 kilometres inland. These wetlands cover 600 square kilometres, most of which is no higher than 8 metres above sea level. There are coastal marine clay deposits, and further inland there are many peaty areas. Dotted within this wetland landscape are slightly raised interglacial islands, called Birtles. These have been settled from the Mesolithic onward, with wooden causeways linking them to higher ground. There are also rocky outcrops, such as Bristol and Gloucestershire, which have also housed ancient settlements. The water levels in the moors and levels are controlled by a series of small narrow canals called rhines, along with larger drains, gates and pumping stations. The rhines are often used as field boundary ditches instead of hedges. Some parts are allowed to flood in winter. The area is mainly used for grazing, but some peat extraction is carried out. Northern Uplands. This is the area between the River Avon to the north and the Axe Valley. The north of Somerset is dominated by the tableland of the Mendip Hills, an area of outstanding natural beauty, stretching from Froome in the east to Crook Peak in the west, with outliers of Bleedon Hill and Breen Down as well as steep Holme in the Bristol Channel. The highest point is Black Down at 324 metres. There is an escarpment facing south to the levels and moors, while the dip slope to the north is broken up. To the north of Bath are Lansdowne, Langridge and Salisbury Hills. These are outliers of the Cotswolds. Bath is noted for its thermal waters that are rich in calcium and sodium sulfates. The Old Red Sandstone is a series of red sandstones, marls and conglomerates. It rises as an anticline in the Mendips and appears in the Avon Gorge and at Portishead. Carboniferous limestone, of marine origin, covers the sandstone and appears in the Avon Gorge and at Western Supermare, where it contains volcanic rocks. There are outlying hills at Worldbury, Middle Hope, the Fayland Ridge, Broadfields Down, Portishead Down and Rington Hill. The main geological component of the Mendips is Carboniferous limestone. It represents the remnants of a much higher range of hills that existed hundreds of millions years ago. This has allowed the formation of features such as Cheddar Gorge, Ebor Gorge and Burrington Combe. There are a wide variety of caves and swallowed holes caused by dissolution of the rock by water. Further east there are Silurian volcanoes, Carboniferous limestone outcrops, Verisk and thrust tectonics, Permo-Triassic conglomerates, sediment-filled fissures, a classic unconformity, Jurassic clays and limestones, Cretaceous green sand and chalk topped with tertiary remnants including sarsen stones. These sediments have yielded a fairly rich fossil fauna of brachiopods and trilobites, indicating that they were deposited in a shallow marine sea, into which the lavas were extruded. The rocks are quarried at Moons Hill near Stoke St Michael for aggregate. Coal measures appear in the Radstock district and surrounding Somerset coalfield. There are two series of coal-bearing sandstones and shales separated by Pennant sandstone. Locally the beds are folded and faulted. There were mines in the Radstock and Nailsea areas, but these have closed. This was one of the first areas in the world to undergo systematic geological study and mapping by John Strachey and William Smith in the 18th century. They observed the rock layers, or strata, which led Smith to the creation of a testable hypothesis, which he termed the principle of faunal succession. The Mendips were mined for lead, silver, coal, ochre, fuller's earth and zinc, but this has finished. They were also quarried for stone, notably at Bath and Dolting. Today the Mendips are a major source of aggregates. Southern uplands. To the south of Somerset there is an upland with a series of rolling valleys and scarps, from Penselwood in the east to the Blackdown Hills, another designated area of outstanding natural beauty, in the west. This is a geologically complex area of clays, limestone and marl. The honey-coloured limestone at Ham Hill is particularly important to geologists because of the assemblages of fossils which it contains, the sedimentary features which it displays, and the way it relates to other rocks of equivalent age in the close vicinity. It has been quarried since Roman times at least. The Blackdowns are on the southwest border of Somerset, extending into Devon. They are composed of upper green sand. The scarp faces north and is steep and wooded, with a south-facing dip slope. There is an open plateau, which is not as high as the Mendips. The Quantic Hills are a 20 kilometres long broad ridge from the coast near Wiltshire in the north to near Taunton in the south. They reach 384 metres high at Will's Neck and are separated from Exmoor and the Brendons by a rift valley. The Quantocks and the Brendon Hills at the eastern end of Exmoor are formed by thick sequences of slates and sandstones of Devonian age that were deposited by large deltas that built out into a shallow sea. The Quantic Hills are largely formed by rocks of the Devonian period, which consist of sediments originally laid down under a shallow sea and slowly compressed into solid rock. In the higher northwestern areas, older early Devonian rocks, known as hangman grids, predominate, and can be seen in the exposed rock at West Quantock's Head Quarry, which were worked for road building. Further south there are newer middle and late Devonian rocks, known as Ifracombe beds and mortay slates. These include sandstone and limestone, which have been quarried near Aysholt. At Great Holwell, south of Aysholt, there is a limestone cave, which is the only one in the Devonian limestone of North Devon and West Somerset. The lower fringes around the hills are composed of younger rocks of the Triassic period. These are known as New Red Sandstone rocks, which represent the deposits of large river systems that cross a desert plain, and often contain irregular masses of veins of gypsum, which was worked on the foreshore at Wiltshire. The scarp is to the west with a dip slope to the east. The west side is cut by combes with broad valleys on the east. The hilltops are open heathland with woods on the slopes. Several areas have outcrops of slates, and between St Orres and Kilve, younger rocks of the Jurassic period can be found. This area falls within the Blue Anketa Lilstock site of special scientific interest and is considered to be of international geological importance. At Kilve, the remains of a red brick retort, built in 1924, when it was discovered that the shale found in the cliffs was rich in oil. At Blue Anchor, the coloured alabaster found in the cliffs gave rise to the name of the colour, Watchet Blue. Exmoor. Exmoor is a dissected plateau of Devonian sedimentary rock, rising to 517 metres at Dunkery Beacon. It extends into Devon, but the majority of the area is in Somerset. Much of the area is a national park. The landscape is one of rounded hills with Hog's Back cliffs at the coast due to geological movements. Because of high rainfall, there are boggy areas, and the Park by the Chains is a geological conservation review site recognized as being nationally important for its southwestern lowland heath communities and for transitions from ancient semi-natural woodland through upland heath to blanket mire. The Chains provides palynological record of a mid to late Flandrian vegetation history on Exmoor. The pollen sequence in the peat is calibrated by radiocarbon dating. The Glenthorne area demonstrates the trend tissue formation of the Hangman Sandstone group. The Hangman Sandstone represents the Middle Devonian sequence of North Devon and Somerset. These unusual freshwater deposits in the Hangman grids were mainly formed in desert conditions. As this area of Britain was not subject to glaciation, the plateau remains as a remarkably old landform. Quartz and iron mineralization can be detected in outcrops and subsoil. The underlying rocks are covered by moors or supported by wet, acid soil. The highest point on Exmoor is Dunkery Beacon at 519 meters. It is also the highest point in Somerset. Exmoor has 55 kilometers of coastline, including the highest cliffs in England, which reach a height of 1,350 feet at Quantic Hill. However, the crest of this coastal ridge of hills is more than 1.6 kilometers from the sea. If a cliff is defined as having a slope greater than 60 degrees, the highest cliff on mainland Britain is Great Hangman near Combe Martin at 318 meters high, with a cliff face of 214 meters. Its sister cliff is the 218 meters Little Hangman, which marks the edge of Exmoor. Exmoor's woodlands sometimes reach the shoreline, especially between Porlock and the Foreland, where they form the single longest stretch of coastal woodland in England and Wales. The Exmoor coastal heaths have been recognised as a site of special scientific interest due to the diversity of plant species present. The high ground forms the catchment area for numerous rivers and streams. There are about 300 miles of named rivers on Exmoor. The River Exe, from which Exmoor takes its name, rises at Exhead near the village of Simonsbath, close to the Bristol Channel coast, but flows more or less directly due south, so that most of its length lies in Devon. The river and the Barle Valley are both designated as biological sites of special scientific interest. Another tributary, the River Harthio, flows from the Wimbleball Lake. The action of streams has cut combes through the hills down to the sea, which are now wooded, although much of Exmoor is open heathland. There is an outlier of Exmoor at North Hill near Minehead. Iron working was formerly carried out probably from the Roman period onward. Because Exmoor was a royal forest, i.e. a hunting reserve, it was unpopulated in medieval times. The first house on the moor was only built at Simonsbath in 1654. It was not until the 19th century that farms were built around the moor. The Brandon Hills are to the east of Exmoor and are an outlier of it. They are separated from Exmoor by the valley of the River Avil. They have the same undulating landscape. The Brandons reach a height of 422 meters at Lipe Hill. Iron ore mining was carried out from Roman times up to the early 20th century.